So, hi, today we are having here another interview with a very interesting person who I met in Seoul last month. And I fell in love with her public character and the knowledge about the language localization and the business culture, kind of business localization. We had so many thoughts in common, so we couldn't really stop talking. So it was really cool. And I'm really happy you said yes for this interview here so we can share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Hello to you. And please be my guest and introduce yourself.
All right, Victoria, thank you so much for having me. My name is Joanne, but my legal name is Chaewon. I was born in Korea, but I moved to the United States when I was in middle school, and I lived in the United States until I graduated college. So essentially, I completed middle school, part of middle school, high school, and college in the United States. Upon graduation, I started my professional life in Korea as an account manager at an advertising agency, and then I also worked as a assistant sales manager at a golf company. And around 2021, I took a huge leap of faith and started my solopreneur journey. And it's been what, 2.5 years since then. And my journey has been interesting in that I've had experiences in industries like retail, IT, and advertising and nonprofit. So my I guess, industrial experiences have been very diverse. But one thing that has been in common all throughout my career was globalization and bridging between Korean, and the rest of the world. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, I look forward to sharing my experiences and insights that I earned from working and living abroad.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. About solopreneurship in Korea, how popular is it and how is it taken by the society or
That's a good question. When I first started in 2021, most of people were like jealous because being a solopreneur means that like you're basically giving up all the benefits and all the stability that a company provides you, right? Pension or like paid leave and all that. But the reason why I chose to be a solopreneur is because I was in my mid 20s and I just wanted to try something that's not within my comfort zone. And I thought I was a very adventurous person, but looking back at my 20s, I wasn't, so I just did that, and even that people thought that I started really young. Nowadays, I'm seeing a lot more people, doing it after working or just right off college, so I think that's because Korean economy is unstable at this moment. There are a lot of, like, layoffs, not layoff, but we call it recommended leave. In
yeah,
Korean, we call it 군고사직 because of economical reason, financial reason, or like fit reason, whatever it would be. So it is becoming more and more popular, but also there are more people who are wanting to just live their own life
yeah,
instead of comparing themselves with others. And that's something that's changing in Korea because that hasn't been like that even when I was like growing up. Two reasons to summarize. Number
mm,
one, because of economy, but also the way people see life has changed vastly. So I'm seeing that solopreneurship is becoming more and more common.
I see. Just
Mm.
shortly, do you see a difference between the choice of solopreneurship between men and women? Or
I'm
is it
sorry.
just about like females and males? Is it like 50-50, the choice of solopreneurship or the
Oh,
choice of secure
um,
job in a corporation?
I'm not sure exactly if I can put it into numbers necessarily because I'm sure there are a lot of others who are solopreneurs, but that I don't know. But at least from what I perceive in the Korean society, most of men are, if they're single, then maybe it's a different story. But if they're like married, then
Mm,
a little bit unlikely because they have to
okay.
support their family. And
Yes.
there's this thing called that they have to be the breadwinner. I don't think it's just a
Yeah.
Korean thing. I
Mm,
just a global thing.
sure.
I would say that is unlikely, and I think the older, possibly the less because there are more things to lose. Whereas
Yeah.
young generations, anyone in their 20s or they don't have that much to lose. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's such an interesting topic. Actually, we could have just a session for that only, to be honest. Yeah. What do I have to do to make the Korean potential partners, prospects, to trust me? That's the big issue or question that people have when they are, of course, venturing to new markets, especially, let's say, markets that have really different culture. Not just different, but unknown.
If you want to work with a startup or more younger company, they're more like open, right? Whereas if you're like working with more like a conglomerate or like much a little bit larger in size, then it is likely to be more conservative. Korean culture is definitely like working culture is like a little bit hard to navigate because there are a lot of nuances that you have to pick up. If Koreans hang out with the group of Koreans, then not as difficult to adjust to the Korean society because you already know what's expected. To be honest, I did not go to America thinking that I would come back. Like my goal was to like live in the United States and work in the United States. I basically avoided interacting with Koreans as much as possible, not because I didn't like them, but because I didn't really see the point of hanging out with Koreans when studying in America isn't cheap. So I wanted to take advantage of all the cultures that I could explore. So that really helped me adjust to American culture really well. But when I first came back, it was very difficult, right? Because I didn't act, first of all, I didn't act Korean. Like
Yeah.
I look Korean, but I didn't act Korean. What I mean by acting Korean is it's hard to put all of them into words, but they were like way of acting that's accepted among like Korean culture.
Yeah.
And this was like mid 2010s when things were a little bit not open to our foreigners. So people looked at me like I'm a little weird. And then like for and that one good example is like jokes. Like in America, like sarcasm and jokes are really like powerful in
Yeah.
breaking things. But I remember like I went to a meeting, but it was so awkward. So I just tried to make jokes, but apparently that was not accepted. Like things like that.
Yeah.
Or the way I write emails, there are certain like even though they're Korean like language, like in business Korean, there are certain way of communicating, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
nobody taught me, so I basically had to learn it the hard way. The most difficult time was when I joined golf company in 2020 because depending on the age group, some groups are more open, some groups not so much.
Yes.
But when I was in golf company, I worked with a group of men who were in their 40s, and I had no experience interacting with them. So I was essentially like clueless on like how to behave or how
Mm.
to communicate, how to report. So sometimes they're like a little bit offended by the way I said to them. It wasn't because like I wanted to offend them. It was because I like genuinely
Yeah.
didn't know.
No. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that time was a little bit difficult, but in the end, after learning, experiencing that for about 2 years, like now I feel pretty confident and I don't get really scared communicating with any group of working professionals in Korea. I would say it depends, but on age group and the gender, but generally Korean, I think society compared to others are a little bit conservative and a little bit nuanced. Does that answer your question?
Yes. But if we now take a foreigner, are Koreans more forgiving when foreigners are making these mistakes or, they're trying their best, but they don't know everything?
I would say that depends, but generally, yes, because if it's a foreigner, then just from the appearance that you know that, oh, this person might not really know or understand our culture or our behave the way we communicate. So I think they'll be more forgiving. In fact, if you try to communicate in Korean, I think that'll impress them just like anywhere
Mm.
else. The better you can communicate, then obviously the better they'll understand and
Mm.
the easier it is to build relationships. Even though Korea is becoming global and I'm seeing a lot of like people interested in like coming to Korea or working in Korea and everything, Korea is still a very unified country. I actually did a research last year for my presentation on business Korean at American Translation Association conference in Miami. And apparently 95% of our population is still Korean. Most of them
Mhm.
are non-Koreans. I expect the numbers to grow.
Mhm.
People are still used to everything Korean. Like, we're not used to diversity. You don't have to know everything, but I think making some effort to, like, understand the business culture is, I think, essential. But I don't think it's just a Korean thing. I think it's anywhere you do business. I actually try to tackle into this issue myself because in order for me to adjust to Korean culture, I had to learn it the hard way. I just told you that.
Yeah.
But I realized that isn't enough resource that tells people on how to adjust Korean culture.
We are going to talk about language, the use of language in business. I would need a translator if I wanted to start publishing stuff in Korean language. And we are going to talk about if we need to do it or not. Finding the translators. I get lots of questions. Please, how can I find the good translator for Norwegian or Danish or whatever? What is the best ways of finding high quality translators for the South Korean market?
A lot of Korean translators are not very active online. Yeah.
I see.
There's some, like,
Okay.
people on Prosy, some on LinkedIn, like me. That's pretty much about it. But
Mhm.
also they have some specialties. Like, some of them are like webtoon, or some of them are subtitles and all that.
Yeah.
But if you were to find a good Korean translator, your best bet is LinkedIn, and you can talk to them and see if they can handle your work or not. Yeah. And I
Mhm.
think I would say one thing that you would want to know is that whether this person have, like, actually in-depth knowledge and, like, like, working knowledge of Korean language. Because sometimes with translators, if they just translated, they might not necessarily know how, like, certain terms work. But essentially, if you're translating in this context, you're translating to persuade or sell something, right? So you have
Right.
to kind of know business Korean style, which is a little bit
Yeah.
distinct from general Korean, right? That is something that you'll have to check. Oh, and then another thing, sorry, American Translation Association is another good resource to find high quality Korean translators.
What criteria should businesses use when they're selecting a translator or localization expert for the South Korean market? So what should they ask or what should they put their attention to when selecting the right person?
The first thing that you have to check is whether this person actually can communicate in English. Another thing that I encourage businesses to check is whether they have actual, like, business experience or not,
Yes.
or have worked with global companies, because I think that will give them more context on how to put your work into Korean that actually works. And I would also ask them, like, the diversity of projects that they've worked. Having a lot of experiences with me has helped me tremendously in being able to figure out new projects.
Yeah.
Because if you have worked only with a certain type of project, and if you're given another project, then it's much harder, right? Like, you're not used to that. Whereas
Right.
if you're already, like, used to different type of project and have different knowledges, it's much easier. A lot of times in businesses, their needs change.
Yes.
I'm assuming that most of your customers' translation needs are on, like, websites or catalogs and you name it, right? Even though the type of translation might be the same, the content might be different, meaning the industry might be different. But the more experience the translator has with different industries and
Yeah.
different kinds of projects, that it is for them to, like, figure out, like, how to go about it.
Right.
So I would also suggest that you ask the diversity of projects that the translation has worked for it. Another thing might help is how many countries that the translators have worked with. If the person worked with a certain translator from a certain country, then that person might not be aware of knowledge of working with
Yeah.
different countries. Or
Right.
there's a possibility that a stakeholder or someone from different country in your team will end up working with them, but if they're not used to it, it might make things a little bit more like complicated because they don't
Right.
understand. Yeah, so to summarize, obviously you have to check their language, linguistic ability, but you also want to know if they have worked in like a global environment and if they have experiences communicating Korean in a business setting, and
Mm.
also if they have worked in different diverse range of projects in their career.
Okay, thank you. Really interesting. Good points. How do you feel about AI? So how well does
Mhm.
ChatGPT, for example, translate English texts into Korean texts? Have you checked it?
Yes, of course I have. That is actually a topic that has come up quite a lot. I don't think it's just the translation industry that talks about AI all the time. I think it's everywhere in the world. The thing about Korean and English, they're so different that AI just cannot catch the nuances. For
Yes.
example, on LinkedIn, I see a lot of like foreign companies doing advertisements in
Yes.
Korean, but
Yeah.
I can tell that it's done
Yeah.
by AI. It's like super off.
Mhm. But when it comes to, let's say we are making this video and I decide, oh, I let the some AI program, the script or whatever, I let it put the subtitles in for me. That work.
It would work, but there's a chance that people might not fully understand. Korean and English are just so different semantically and phonetically, and then Korean is very like contextual language.
Yeah.
So like facial expressions or wordings or way you act, they all take into consideration when, understanding what they're saying. Whereas English is very straight up language. Like you just word everything that you want to say. That itself is a reason why AI in Korean, from English to Korean or
Mm.
Korean to English, don't work. I've done testing myself. I'm always curious about that. I've used Google, I've used ChatGPT. Google,
No,
you
no.
know,
Yeah,
I'll
no.
say DeepL is pretty good, but even
Mm.
with DeepL, I think you still need a good translator in order to make
Mm.
sure that your text is like on point.
But when it comes to the language again, maybe it's a little bit like common sense when it comes to Korea because English is not used as widely. When a business decides to expand to the Korean market, for example, they have the first step. They are starting to contact their prospects, potential partners. Should they have their materials, their presentations in the Korean language, or is it okay to have them in English?
I suggest that you have the documents in the local language. If you want to expand your business in Korea, then it is very important to have your documents in Korean because Korean people are generally not like comfortable with English. Most of our communication is done in Korean unless
Like,
it's a global company or anything like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I
and especially
see.
if you're like
Mm.
starting out, then you want to make sure you put a good impression. One way to do that is to show an effort by translating your document in Korean.
This is a very good piece of information. Let's talk about websites a little bit. When doing business in Northern Europe or in Europe, you should have a website. When we
Mhm.
talk about, let's say, China, they have their stuff for, let's say, on social media, which is adjusted so that you can do business there, which is not a case here. So, what about Korea? Should I have a website already translated also into the Korean language before I start approaching my prospects? Yes. So that they can
Easy
actually,
question. Because here's the thing, if they see that your website is not available, number 1, and it's not
yes.
in Korean, then they're not gonna take you seriously.
Yeah.
They're not gonna think that, "Oh, this company is not interested in expanding in Korea." Business terms are not easy, right? We have to rely on Google Translate, and if
Right.
nothing is in Korean, then there's limit on how much we can figure it out. There, it already is a barrier
It is.
that
Yeah.
stops Korean partners to even consider the foreign business as their prospective partner.
I see. Let's say about social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, when already deciding that, yes, we are going to the market, contracts are there, should businesses establish accounts on some specific social media channels in Korea?
Yes, definitely. Obviously, there's a limited resource in any company. So a company cannot probably run every single social media account depending on the site. But it is very important for a company to have at least like one or two that they can focus on in Korean. Essentially, you want Koreans to know about your product, right? But if it's in English, they're most likely not going to see. And Korean is the main language that we use. So it is very important that you run one or two social media channels in Korean so that Koreans can find you, and B, Koreans can understand your product in a language that they're comfortable with.
But when it comes to B2C, which are the top three channels they need to consider?
Instagram.
Instagram. Okay, cool.
Instagram. No, no question. Instagram.
Okay.
And Facebook. Facebook is
Drink. Yeah.
And some people say TikTok, but I don't think TikTok is that big, honestly.
Mhm.
But or YouTube, I would say Instagram, especially if you do a lot of reels. Because actually, I took some classes in this area as well. Because I used to make reels myself, and reels did much better than just general posts. I would
Yeah.
say if you're B2C, then without a question, you should go for Instagram.
Mm,
Consider doing reels.
I see. But when it comes to, let's say, communication and that, do you use WhatsApp and you also have Kakao Talk? What can people use?
Kakao Talk channel is like
Uh,
WhatsApp. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I can figure it out. We can put it into the description. So what do people do with it?
Businesses share their news. Also, they promote their events or they provide like discount information and events.
Mm,
They just interact with to give them audiences new information about their product. And sometimes they do new release, new product.
yeah, I see.
Whereas Instagram is more like how to use it.
I see. Yeah, yeah, informative. So you also have a neighbor. So tell me about
Yes.
the Google neighbor thing. What's going on there? So do we need to know about neighbor and do we have to optimize and find actually an expert who knows neighbor well when entering the Korean market?
Okay, so neighbor, it depends. But of course, if you know it, then obviously it will help. People still use neighbor a lot to like search. For example, I use neighbor a lot.
Yes.
I think when you're starting out, you might want to focus on the ones that are more familiar. As you build, if you can implement neighbor,
Yeah.
then it'll be helpful. But I haven't seen that many companies using neighbor.
Really?
So,
So
like, companies meaning, like, non-Korean companies.
so
Yep.
when it comes to Google and neighbor, people in Korea use most neighbor or did they use
No.
50-50 or how do you feel about
Neighbor,
it? Neighbor,
neighbor.
definitely neighbor. Okay. So Google, is it a thing at all?
Yes and no, because, for example, Google Maps in Korea, Google Maps is I don't know if it's the right way to word it. It's not very useful.
But Google
Didn't work.
search as such.
Google search, I think it depends, right? Because most of the search, like for Korean, I think Naver is more like optimized because Google is more global. If I'm looking for a shoes or if I'm looking for hair salons or if I'm looking for a product in Korea, then I use Naver.
I would like to little dip into trust building a little bit.
Oh, okay.
What is the best way of destroying all your options in winning the trust in your the target prospect? What should we avoid actually when it comes to? Let's start with getting in touch with them. What should we do and what should we not do?
Trust building is really important anywhere you work for, and Korea is no exception. Do not just message someone. Definitely not the way to go. I actually have some people who like LinkedIn message me. I found that, I don't know, slightly weird. And you want to make sure that you cater your message, why you're interested in emailing. And you want to make sure that you are interested, like you're genuinely interested in messaging. Don't call, don't text and say, hey, I'm interested in working with you because that's not going to be perceived very well. But I think that's like a common sense. This is something that I've always really wanted to tell everyone who's interested in working Korea. It takes time for Koreans to like actually trust you. Koreans don't open up like right away, right? For me, I'm on the faster side, but that's because I live in the United States for significant period of time. But even then, like it takes a while for me to open up.
How to address the person? Dear, hi, hello. Is it the last name I say? Is it Mr. Kim, Mrs. Kim? Is it, can I use the first name?
So if you're emailing in English, then
Yes.
it can be hi or hello, the first name. So for example, my name is Joanne Chaewon. So
I,
you can say hi Chaewon or hello Chaewon.
I can do that.
But
Okay.
if you're emailing Korean, then you can say 안녕하세요, 채원님. I guess it's basically the same. One thing that you have to know is put 님 in the end, which
Yes,
is an honorific. Some
it's
people
right.
안녕하세요, 채원. And it sounds,
There is no Mr. Kim or Mrs. Kim. It's like not necessary to go that route. Or is there difference if it's a small business or is it the corporation I'm contacting or?
depends. Hello, hi, name has never created an issue, at least in my experience. And not, I would be surprised if anyone
Hmm.
takes offense by that.
Thank you for demystifying that situation for me.
No problem.
Okay, I am so thankful for your time and the information you gave. It's useful for me. It's useful definitely for so many people I personally know, and hopefully also all the people who are watching this interview. So, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Victoria, for this opportunity. And I really enjoyed it. Any of you who are watching this video, I hope my insights were helpful. One thing that I want to leave this conversation with is that Korean culture is complicated. And it took me a while to get to where I'm at. Like now I feel very comfortable interacting with any Korean, and it will take trial and error, but don't be discouraged. I think one thing that really helped me get to know the culture and ask them and be curious about the language and the
Mhm.
customs really helped. For example, like drinking culture, because drinking is huge in Korea, and singing or just exploring Seoul and trying to create your own link with the society will definitely help you get farther in Korean business culture. Because after all, Korean people are about relationships, and the relationships, it's easier to build those relationships if you and the partner have something in common. And the way to create something, some commonality is through like really understanding and learning the society and culture on a deeper level. If you're like wanting to start a business in Korea, then I highly encourage that keep up with the culture, whether it be drama, whether it be songs, or whether it be just exploring the city, and try to find what you like about it and just keep diving into it. And I think that'll be a starting point of you just falling in love with society and making the business much easier to build.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I thank you again from my heart for taking this
Yeah.
time so late in the evening. You poor thing. I hope I see you whenever I come to Korea again. I will definitely let you know. All right. Have a good night. Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye bye.